Sorry, I think I just timed out there for a second. If you missed me, I'm Allie from the Naples Library, and I'm here to deliver your Storytime snippet of the week. So as you know, we are just concluding our summer reading program that is provided by Read Squared. And this week, our subject that we're talking about is mythical creatures. Do you know anything about mythical creatures? So sometimes in stories, we talk about creatures that don't necessarily exist, but we can pretend that they do for the sake of stories. So sometimes they're unicorns, sometimes they're mermaids. And today we're going to be talking about trolls, but not the kind of troll that you might be thinking about. So sometimes like the trolls that you might think about are big, huge, scary, really ugly, nasty creatures. But the trolls we're talking about today are super small, even smaller than mushrooms. They're like the size of fairies. And specifically the type of troll we're talking about today is called the happy troll. I realize this is backwards on your screen, but that's okay. We're going to be doing a felt board story loosely based on this book, The Happy Troll by Max Bolliger, and it is published by Henry Holt and Company. So we're going to be learning all about a little troll and his magnificent singing voice. Let's start right in, okay? I'm going to scoot you a little bit closer to the felt board. All right. Once there was a troll. He was not especially good looking, but he wasn't ugly either. And his name was Gus, the ordinary troll. Now, Gus had a special talent. Every troll does. And his special talent was that he had a beautiful voice. He loved to sing. He sang everywhere he went. And with his voice, he sang songs that he not only learned from old trolls, but songs that he made himself, which made him a composer. So he started to sing for the children of his group, and then eventually trolls from far and wide came to visit him. And sometimes when they came to visit him and listen to his stories, they would offer him things like nuts, and sometimes they would bring him things like berries as little payments for his beautiful voice and his entertainment. They would give him things he needed. And he was so happy. Then, one day, let me get all these things off of here. One day, Gus was practicing his singing voice over by the brook. La 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 la, la 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 la, la 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 la. And down flew a raven. This raven was not just any raven. This raven was wearing a beautiful, shiny ring. Down flew the raven and landed right next to Gus. And Gus was like, whoa, that is the shiniest ring I've ever seen, he thought to himself. The raven had heard about Gus from far, far away because he was such a good singer. And the raven asked Gus, Gus, will you sing for me? And Gus said, oh, wow, I would love to sing for you. If only I had a gold ring, my happiness would be complete, he said. I will sing for you if you give me your ring. So the raven took off his ring and gave it to Gus. Oh, I promise this fits, I made sure. And gave it to Gus, and Gus sang him a beautiful tune. La 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 la, walk through the woods with me. After he did that, the raven was satisfied and flew away. The next day, Gus was practicing in the same spot by the brook. La 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 la, when all of a sudden, slithered up a big, beautiful snake wearing a big, beautiful crown with jewels on it. "Hello, Gus," said the snake. "I've heard of your singing from lands and tales far, far away. I have come to hear your beautiful voice. Will you sing for me?" said the snake. And Gus looked at that crown that snake was wearing, and he thought to himself, if only I had that golden crown, my happiness would be complete. So he said, "I will sing for you, snake, if you give me your golden crown." So the snake obliged. She wanted to hear him sing so badly, she gave him her crown, which will not stick to his head, so we'll put it kind of above his head. He wore the crown on top of his hat. So Gus sang his song. La 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 la, walk through the woods with me. And the snake was satisfied with that beautiful song and went to share the news with everyone else. The next day, Gus was by the same spot at the brook, singing and practicing his songs, when he was approached by a toad in a carriage. See, the carriage was carried by little snails there, and the carriage looked to be made out of leaves and nuts. So the toad pulled in, and he says, "I've heard of your singing from far, far away, and I came to hear the good songs you sing," said the toad. And Gus looked at that carriage that toad was in, and he said, "Oh, gee, if I only had a carriage like that, my happiness would be complete." "I will sing for you," Gus told the toad, "but only if you give me your carriage." So the toad hopped out of the carriage and gave that carriage to Gus. Gus got in the carriage and sang his song for the toad. La 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 la, walk through the woods with me. And the toad was satisfied with this beautiful song that Gus had sang, and he hopped away to tell everybody the news. And there was Gus, who should be the happiest troll in the world, right? Because he said he'd only be happy if he had that beautiful ring. He'd only be happy if he had that beautiful crown. And he would only be happy if he had that beautiful carriage. So he sat there with his beautiful ring, his beautiful crown, and his beautiful carriage. And all of his friends would come to him and beg him, "Gus, please sing for us, please sing for us. We love your beautiful singing voice." And Gus would say to them, "Not unless you have beautiful things to give me. I will not sing. I will not sing." And so the other trolls decided that they didn't want Gus to sing for them because they didn't have any riches. They didn't have any crowns. They didn't have any rings. All they could give him were small things like berries and nuts. So there Gus was one night. He went out in the dark and he sat down by a tree in the light of the moon, and he was alone. And Gus lost the joy of riding around in his carriage. He lost the joy of showing off his beautiful crown. And he stayed out by that tree and tried to sing. But he realized when he opened his mouth that he couldn't. His voice had lost its beauty, and he couldn't think of any new songs. Gus says, la 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 la, walk through the woods with me. And it sounded terrible because he was so sad. So he figured, how do I get my songs back? And he went on a long journey to find his songs. He rode his golden carriage over all the hills and in the valleys in search of his songs. Oops, we have a little bit of an accident there. In search of his songs. And eventually he came upon the raven, who was all the way up high in his nest. And Gus said to the raven, "Take back your golden ring. I don't need it anymore. I'm looking for my songs instead." And so Gus gave the raven, oh my goodness. It wasn't easy for him. It was a struggle to take this ring off because he loved it so much that it took a long time to take off. And his crown fell off when he tried to take it off. So Gus gave the raven the ring back. And the raven was happy. And Gus felt a little bit better. "You will find them," said the raven, and flew away. So Gus kept going on his journey until he came upon the snake in the grass. "Gus," said the snake, "I remember you. You have such a lovely singing voice and so many songs. I have lost my songs and my singing voice. I'm out looking for them. I don't need your crown anymore. Take your crown back, snake." And Gus gave the snake the crown. "Thank you," said the snake. "You will find them." And the snake slithered away with her crown. So many days and many nights go by, and Gus comes upon a beautiful pond. And out on the edge of that pond, Gus found the toad that gave him the carriage. And Gus went up to the toad and said, "Toad, I am looking for my songs, and I can't find them anywhere. Take back your carriage. I don't need it anymore." "I will take my carriage. You will find your songs, boy." And the toad got in the carriage. And the carriage slowly wheeled away with the snails pulling him. So then it was just Gus. It was just Gus in the whole wide world on his journey home. And on that journey home, he realized that the songs started to come back to him after he wasn't concentrated anymore on the ring and the crown and the carriage and all of the expensive and beautiful things that he got for his voice. At last he reached the village of trolls, and they were waiting for him. They had all prepared nuts and berries for his return, for they had hoped their friend would find his voice again too. And so, upon his return, Gus sang the most beautiful song he had ever sung. And this song was called Friendship. He got up on his toadstool and he opened his mouth, and the most beautiful song of friendship came out. He said, "Friends like these are hard to come by, and I'm so sorry that I had ever doubted any of you. Thank you so much for being my friends. I will never make you pay for me to sing ever, ever again." And now, Gus, with his beautiful voice, and all of the trolls around him were at last very happy. And they all lived happily ever after in their beautiful woodland wonderland. The end. So what did we learn from Gus today? Can anybody tell me something that they learned about our troll friend? Maybe that being greedy doesn't really help when you're trying to make friends. And being greedy is, not always the way to go. It doesn't make you happy. Happiness comes from true friendship and the things that we need. Not riches, not gold, not shiny rings or carriages, but the love that we surround us with is what makes us truly happy. All right, friends. Well, I will see you on Friday for some more stories about mythical creatures. We do have some mermaids to talk about. We do have some unicorns to talk about, and you'll see what surprises I have for you then. Until then, I hope that you enjoy your time here on planet Earth. Thanks for tuning in with me. Have a great day. Bye, everybody.